Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Tasked by His Majesty the Sultan, His Excellency the Minister of Justice opens Sultan Qaboos Mosque in the Wilaya of Sama'il of Governorate of Dakhiliya. Tens of sites are approved by the Technical Committee for Urban Planning in all governorates of the Sultanate since last year. And the Royal Oman Police, in cooperation with the Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs, organises an awareness gathering on the dangers of drugs and crimes. Those were the headlines, and now for the news in detail. Tasked by His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, His Excellency Sheikh Abdul Malik bin Abdullah Al Khalili, Minister of Justice, today opened Sultan Qaboos Mosque in the Wilaya of Sama'il of the Governorate of Dakhiliya. The mosque is situated in Al-Madra'a district on an area of more than 41,000 square meters. It can accommodate more than 3,000 worshippers. It consists of a main hall for prayer, a room for preachers and prayer leaders, a prayer hall for women, a library, 3 classrooms, offices for administration and other utilities and facilities. It has Islamic architectural design along with 2 tall minarets with a height of more than 50 meters. The mosque was built by a grant from His Majesty Sultan Qaboos. With the aim to benefit from scientific researchers in some educational establishments of the private sector, Oman Naval College signed with Majis Company for Industrial Services a Memorandum of Understanding with the aim to train college students in various fields in line with their specializations. The training will cover scientific researches, maritime industries, logistics and water fields. The company will assist the college in pursuing right track of student studies. The cooperation between the 2 bodies will enhance students' capabilities in maritime industries and widen their horizons to quickly be employed after their graduation within their scope of specializations. The Technical Committee concerned with the phased mechanism of urban planning approved dozens of sites in all wilayas of the Sultanate since it was formed last year. The committee conducts detailed studies of the proposed sites by the Ministry of Housing after gaining approvals from authorities concerned. The sites are complete with all services required, taking into consideration all precautions from the point of roads, wadi tracks, land level compared to surrounding areas, other facilities such as health, education, social, civil defence, police and other needed services. The committee consists of 15 government bodies, mainly to discuss sites and services, along with other issues related to urban planning. In activation of society partnership and confirmation of the importance of the community awareness of the dangers of crimes and drugs, the Muscat Governorate Police Command organised an awareness gathering with the participation of the Department of Preaching and Guidance at the Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs. It aimed to acquaint with dangers of these crimes. A number of preachers at the mosques took part within initiatives by the Royal Oman Police to spread security awareness among members of the society. It enhances partnership between Royal Oman Police and national social institutions with the aim to create solidarity to prevent the occurrence of these crimes. It also aims to enlighten individuals of not engaging in such acts. Still to come in our news bulletin. Moroccan villagers harvest fog for water supply. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon criticised Israel for the death and suffering of Palestinian children during last summer's conflict in Gaza, reiterating his demand for the Israeli government to take immediate steps to prevent such killings. The Secretary General's latest report said that in the Gaza conflict, at least 561 children were killed, 557 of them Palestinians. It said 4,271 youngsters were injured, all but 22 Palestinians. The Palestinian deaths were the third highest death toll of any conflict in 2014, after Afghanistan's child killings and Iraq, but ahead of Syria. He expressed deep alarm at the Gaza killings and urged Israel to review its policies and practices and respect the special protections afforded to schools and hospitals. 10 members of Tunisia's diplomatic staff kidnapped in Libya a week ago have been freed and returned to Tunis today, and the Tunisian government has shut down its consular operations in Tripoli. No group has claimed responsibility for the abduction. Armed groups in Libya have repeatedly kidnapped diplomats and foreign nationals to pressure their governments to free Libyan militants held in jails overseas. 3 of the 10 Tunisians had been freed earlier in the week after talks between the captors and the Tripoli government. 7 more freed hostages arrived in Tunis today to be greeted by government officials and family. Talks on the war in Yemen ended without agreement on a ceasefire today, but the United Nations Special Envoy who presided over the process said the door was open for more dialogue and he was still hopeful of a truce. UN spokesman Ahmed Fawzi told a news briefing in Geneva that UN envoy Ismail Ould Sheikh Ahmed is working very hard to achieve something by the end of today. Diplomats have reported slow progress in the peace talks as Sheikh Ahmed shuttles between the two sides, but Fawzi said they were productive.
The special envoy is persuading both sides to come to some kind of agreement with him on the question of a cessation of hostilities, for example. A cessation of hostilities is paramount. They have had, finally, constructive talks. The day before yesterday, a delegate from the Sana'a delegation himself came out and said, as you know, we've had good talks with the envoy, we're making some progress. Yesterday, the envoy told me the talks were extremely constructive.
A group of European bison enjoy their first taste of freedom after being released into the wild as part of a conservation effort to save the species that was almost wiped out in the 20th century. More details in the following report.
These bison will be among the first to roam in Romania's Carpathian Mountains in 200 years. Transported here from zoos across Europe, the 14 animals must first spend a year acclimatizing in a reserve before being released into the wild.
This project is not only about saving Europe's largest mammal, it's also about restoring an ecosystem, because this bison is grazing meadows, keeping them open for insects, flowers, reptiles. One species makes the world more fun for thousands of others.
Another group of 14 animals arrived last year and are only now being prepared for the release into the wild, although one new arrival has already taken things into his own hands.
One bison got through the gate. It wasn't planned, it happened, so part of rewilding process.
To express our...
Decimated by hunting and deforestation, the European bison came close to extinction in the 20th century. But breeding programs for the animals in captivity has helped them survive. The nearby town of Artemis is welcoming the return of the bison, hoping they will prove to be a unique tourist attraction.
We want to show the locals that healthy living nature has more value than the kind that's massively exploited.
There are currently 5,000 bison in Europe. In this area, it's hoped that a total of around 500 bison will be roaming free by 2025.
green technology to turn fog into fresh water straight from the tap has put an end to exhausting daily treks to distant wells by village women in southwest Morocco. Here is a report.
In the mountains of Morocco's remote Sidi Ifni region, these men have come to inspect an unusual installation. Closely meshed panels planted in the rock like a larger-than-life spider's web. Its purpose, to catch minute droplets of fog water and turn them into drinking water, a boon in the semi-arid region where tap water is a luxury.
This project solves many water-related issues for people in the region. Before, they had to collect water from wells, sometimes located far from their homes. Here, on top of that, there are droughts. Water is so scarce that it can take up to 3.5 hours a day for people to find water, and it's often women and children who have to do that.
The region is often shrouded in thick fog, with mountains blocking cloud formations. The fog harvesting system was launched in March, the first of its kind in North Africa. Now, residents of Douar Eid Ashur, one of the 5 villages served, no longer have to schlep for hours to collect water.
I had to ride a donkey for half an hour with 2 containers to draw water from a well, and I had to do that 4 times a day. Each container can hold 20 liters of water. Times 4, that adds up to 160 liters a day. But it wasn't enough because we also have cattle.
The newly installed taps are also a huge time saver for the village's children.
We've always had to ride donkeys to fetch water, but now that we have taps at home, we save a lot of time, meaning we can go to school.
Households pay $2 for access to tap water. The NGO in charge of the project says fog water is 3 times cheaper than well water. Its next plan, to have fog nets planted all over the Moroccan mountains.
And now for the general weather forecast. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas and the nearby mountains of the Governorate of the Far, with chances of intermittent drizzles. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear to partly cloudy skies, with chances of accumulative clouds and scattered rainfalls towards the evening over the Hajar Mountains and the nearby areas. Winds will be northeasterly to easterly light to moderate along the coasts of Sea of Oman, while it will be northwesterly light to moderate along the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the coasts of Arabian Sea will be rough with a maximum wave height of 4 meters, and rest of the coast it will be slight to moderate with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Tasked by His Majesty the Sultan, His Excellency the Minister of Justice opens Sultan Qaboos Mosque in the Wilaya of Sama'il of the Governorate of Dakhiliya. Tens of sites are approved by the Technical Committee for Urban Planning in all governorates of the Sultanate since last year. And the Royal Oman Police, in cooperation with the Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs, organises an awareness gathering on the dangers of drugs and crimes. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.